I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Oh my goodness, it is indeed the Picard After Show, the one place you can come for absolute candor. Welcome, especially for our trekkers out there on the East Coast where it's Valentine's Day and you're spending it with us talking about Star Trek. You're our kind of people. Hi, I'm Christian Blatt.
Hi, Christian.
Oh, yeah, we just talked to Flobo. And joined once again this week by the lovely Angelica Trey.
Hi, yes, that's me. Hi,
Also
guys.
lovely Flobito, new content every week.
New content every week. Thank you so much for having me, Christian.
And then down on the end, Frank Moran, new content never.
Never.
Old content for years. The same content from 1995, still up.
Why
That's
did
right.
you bury himself?
His GeoCities is great. It's got a hit counter. It tells you that he's had 300 people.
Check out my Netscapes.
Hey,
What an intro.
you know what all that was? Absolute candor. I'm just calling it like it is.
That is true.
We always like to start with just sort of overall thoughts on the episode. Angelica, overall thoughts on the episode.
This episode we had a little bit of progress here, but we just saw some creepy siblings get creepier, and
I'm not down with these two. It's
I'm excited though. We got some new crew. That's cool.
Oh, because you're excited.
No,
about
I'm not excited about that.
was
That's
like,
honestly,
son
I'm
being
a little.
creepy, yeah.
I'm scared. It's like
See,
a horror aspect.
And I think
now
I said
of
this last week, but see, Game of Thrones lives on. So look, if you need incest on your television, look no farther than Star Trek Picard.
No one would need it.
Wow, what a sales pitch there.
Hey, I'm just trying to help. CBS All Access.
Check out Picard. We got incest.
Yeah.
Space.
We got incest and
incest in
incels.
space.
Hey,
That
wait a minute.
that is
That sounds
terrible.
what? That sounds like a bowling league. Anyway,
In fact, I know, actually.
Flobito.
You know what? 4 episodes in, I guess I'm understanding the kind of speed the show's going to be. It's not going to be Next Generation. It's not going to be Discovery.
Warp Factor 1 is what this is happening.
Yeah,
at.
pretty much. I
maybe
mean,
1.5.
1.5, not even, maybe slow it down a bit, It's just, it's one of those things where it's not a good thing or a bad thing. Now I'm beginning to adjust my expectations of how much actually gets done in 44 minutes. And I think the knee-jerk reaction is to say, I'm over it. But now with the new expectations adjusted, I think it was a solid episode.
Solid episode, sure. You know what I'm going to chime in with is, I said this last week, I think that this is going to be a great show to binge when it's over.
Agreed.
Because here we are at the end of episode 4. And tell me if you agree, Frank Moran. I feel like we're where we should have been at the end of episode 2. I don't know exactly where the story's going, but what we've accomplished in 4 episodes, that's definitely where we should have been after 2.
It is a bit frustrating. We only have 8 episodes this season.
Yeah,
and
we're halfway through the season now.
Yep, and we're just finally getting the last piece of the crew.
Yeah.
We're finally going to start actually pursuing the real mission next week, which seems kind of frustrating. I mean, in this age of decompression, it's like sometimes decompression can be good. Like with Brian Michael Bendis doing Ultimate Spider-Man. We kind of, over 5 issues, kind of told the origin of Peter Parker, which was told in 1 issue by Stan Lee. It was a nice decompression. You add a little bit more to the texture, but it's also bad because Brian Michael Bendis has also gone off the rails with decompression, elongating it so far that it's like loses a lot of forward momentum.
By the way,
and I feel
Stan Lee and Steve Ditko told the origin of Spider-Man in about 12 pages. It's not even.
Yes.
It's a feature, an Amazing Fantasy feature. So it's like So this doesn't need to be 5. But I agree. Stretch it out a little bit. But this is just like. I mean, do they just want to hammer home how old Picard is, and they want to remind us how slow everything seems to happen?
Yeah.
it almost makes you think like the story is not going to be as like the premise up top at the beginning of the season goes like, wow, a hidden secret Romulan society or sect. That's great. But then when you take so long to really get to it, you're like, I guess it's not really that big. Because it's taken so long to actually get to it.
It's got to be something big to make us wait this long, right? So.
Well, and I mean, we know that there's already a second season underway, and my sources tell me they're breaking season 3 right now. So I think that they have probably like a 24 episode story that they're planning to tell, and it's probably going to move at this pace for all 3 years.
Yeah.
So I thought that the pacing of the premiere was great.
Yeah.
But boy, they sure pumped on the brakes since then.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed.
And I don't know how much of it is like Michael Chabon being the showrunner, and he's not going to be that next year because he's going to be working on Cavalier and Clay.
Right.
But he's still going to be an EP of the show. So who knows with the new showrunner? It gets tweaked slightly. They just realize after this season, like, oh yeah, we could have been a little more aggressive in our storytelling. And maybe it gets tweaked slightly for season 2. We can only hope.
Well, let's go through the story a little bit. As has been the case the last few weeks, we start off 14 years ago, and we get to see Picard not hating children. I think he just hated Wesley Crusher. If Nikki was here, she'd probably slap me.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was just so annoying. I think he might like children, but maybe at that point in his life, the only child he'd met had been Wesley Crusher, and so he's just like, oh, they're all awful.
Fair enough.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Insufferable.
We did see in his archives that he held onto the Captain Picard Day banner. So clearly that touched some chord in his heart those years ago on the Enterprise.
Yeah, so no, exactly. And I think that I thought it was very, very sweet to see the interaction and sort of building this mythology of these assassin nuns, essentially.
Yeah.
I'm always into that.
Warrior nuns.
Warrior nuns,
So
yeah.
assassin
Yeah, but I find it interesting, and tell me if you agree, Angelica, that they'll pledge themselves to your cause, but only if they feel it's a lost cause. That's the and that's a big reveal towards the end of the episode. That's really like, oh, yeah. So, what do you think about these characters and about them pledging themselves to you?
I mean, I thought it's kind of like it was almost like a weird joke, like towards the end of this it's a lost cause, but I thought it was a really cool idea, and it kind of reminded me of Dune a little bit. I got some Dune vibes here from the Quack Malad, in terms of oh my gosh, what are they called in Dune right now? Or in Dune?
It has been so long since I've seen Dune. I only saw the movie version.
Okay,
so,
it'll come to me
yeah,
later.
Sorry.
No
Somebody in
worries.
the chat's going to know.
It's
sure.
like this all like female group, basically, of warriors, and they are the feared enemies of the Tashiar.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm working through all these words right now. But
The best thing is that they're all made up, so it's fine.
I
if
just
you
need to say
mispronounce
them
it.
while I'm watching the show out loud.
Tashiar.
But yeah, I think it was an interesting addition to the show, and it was kind of like the little extra, I guess, like main theme of this episode today. It was kind of cool, but also a little, I don't know. It's a little
Look, I
weird to me.
feel like the Romulans can only be more interesting. I've always found them to be dull Vulcans. They're not as interesting.
They're just angry Vulcans.
They're angry Vulcans. Yeah, they're a little bit more violent, but I don't know. I always found the Vulcans to be more interesting. Now, Flobo, as someone new to the Trek universe,
What?
that's you.
That's up.
So, what do you think about sort of filling in this backstory that none of us know? So we're all learning it for the first time.
Sure.
How have these flashbacks helped your understanding of the story as it goes forward?
Well, I think there are a lot of helpful on the surface. For your first question, I think the lost cause thing is a great idea, but you're right. It came so late in the episode. It was kind of like, hey, it's a lost cause. Because like, what if I had a cause that I had a chance of actually winning? You just say no. But to your point, the flashbacks and the whole Mars episode is definitely something that makes you know what the stakes are. But they're going to that well, but once too often, it's almost like you're giving me enough pieces to the point where you have to give him the whole thing, or just say, hey, look, this is what you're getting. Here's why he cares what he cares about. We're going back to things that may not even have any kind of consequence. And I feel like, well, what is the connection there? Kind of lost in that way.
No, I mean, I can understand that. And then, Frank, I'm wondering sort of, what do you think about sort of building onto our understanding of Romulans and filling in this timeline basically between Nemesis and Picard, the TV show Picard?
I mean, certainly it's a lot different than you would have seen in Nemesis with the Romulan society there. I mean, this is one that's been evacuated from their planet, kind of at least at that point, 14 years ago, just as being settled as a temporary refugee, a relocation center, which then turns out to be a permanent one when the rest of the Federation doesn't come back for them. So, I mean, you're seeing them not quite as polished as you'd seen. It's just an interesting take on them.
And Frank, do you agree? Are promises prisons?
No, that's true.
I think I'm just like, yeah, that's the truth right there. So if you don't make promises, you're not going to be trapped in that prison.
Nope, that's true.
So cynical, you guys.
Well, look,
Wow, yeah.
he promised that the Federation would help the Romulans. He promised that he would be back. Neither of those things happened.
Yeah.
And late in the episode, the point was made that when Picard realized that he couldn't save everyone, he didn't save anyone.
Right.
So I think that they're within their rights to be mad at JL. Which I only do. I know you. Oh, you weren't here last week. Yeah, I repeatedly kept doing JL just to be annoying.
Wait, what? Your face,
And
Frank,
you're
what's
still
up with
doing
JL?
it just to be annoying.
What? No, I'm that tight with him. I call him JL.
His name is JL. Frank, tell me why you shake your head so vehemently.
No, I know I wasn't here last week, so real hot. Not a very hot take at all. But
Cold take.
if you ever wanted to make me dislike a character faster in Star Trek, they succeeded with Rafi. I
Yes,
dislike that
yeah.
character
Wow.
immensely.
Yeah.
Jean-Luc is so
Honestly,
wrong.
yeah. No, it's kind of weird too because I was thinking about this. I was like, why does the tone feel so weird? And I think it's because I'm used to seeing Picard in such a, directorial commander position, and we're getting all of these ragtag characters together, and I don't know where Picard kind of fits in. So
Absolutely.
It's been awkward with Rafi.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No,
there.
it's been awkward with Rafi because it's super informal, and he's just taking a bunch of anger. And it's
I
just weird.
like Rafi's character as herself in a silo, but having recently watched The Next Generation, this is a whole different show. Is you seeing this old guy getting dunked on by everybody, saying you're slow, you're too entitled, you don't get this, you don't get that because you're old. But then I'm watching The Next Generation, and you're like, I want to hang out with that guy. That guy seems cool.
That's the guy you want.
Yeah,
absolutely.
man.
Well, I mean, there was one-off episodes of Next Generation where Picard would go off on an archaeological adventure. He'd be off, and there'd be some just supporting actors of the week, which is fine because you knew it was just one episode. Now, when you're dragging it out so far, 4 or 5 episodes, you're wanting to see Picard reunite with the characters that we saw him with before. You want those reunions.
We did get one. We got 7 of 9.
I want to see Fat Data again. You know, we got to see so much of Fat Data, and is Lore fat too? By the way, I was talking about that last week, like where Lore was, and Frank, you might remember this from Discovery and Star Trek Weekly, but our friend Mark Hunt, who checks in a lot, he's always quick to explain to me what I was wrong about. And apparently there's a season 7 episode where Lore was dismantled in Next Generation. So I just didn't remember. I was like, well, where is he? Anyway, I was very specific. But see, I think that's still 20 years ago in the timeline here. So what, at no point nobody decides, like, that really successful android that's a member of Starfleet and highly decorated, don't we have one of those somewhere on the shelf? So I still think that Lore is out there, and I feel like we're more likely to see Lore than we are to see Data. True. But I don't know. Maybe that's a minority opinion, but let us know in the chat.
Well, the chat right now is talking about what we were saying early before. Christopher Curry says, I'm sitting through this because when TNG came out, I hated it. Strong original guy, but took me until Best of Both Worlds to get me, and I loved it. But the Pit says, hey, Trey, heart emoji. And
I typed that. That was me.
And Star Drew says, Christian, don't say the JL word. It is forbidden.
Oof.
What?
Don't
I'm
say
just
it.
talking about my boy JL.
It doesn't flow. Just say Jean-Luc.
I know. Just Jean-Luc is so
Jean-Luc.
cool. Yeah, it's like
JL.
it's like somebody having. It's like sometimes it's like you have a cool name. Why is your nickname like Bubba? Yeah, Bubba. Yeah, exactly.
JL.
Oh, would it be better if he was called Bubba? I'd be like, come on, Bubba's Picard.
And lastly, who would have thought that vaping technology would have peaked in 2016?
Right.
That was it.
It's all
It's
downhill
still,
after that.
in 24th century, it's still like, that's it?
That's
all we got.
Cool.
Anyway, let's get back to I don't even know which part of this we need to get back to. Oh, by the way, I wanted to shout out that this episode was directed by Jonathan Frakes.
Oh, sweet.
It looked like it.
There's so many hours of Star Trek that he's directed that he directed a few episodes of Discovery. Yeah, it just kind of always looked like that. So what do we think of the crew as it's being assembled now? We're getting multiple iterations of the captain now, which I don't know if I liked this newest one. I was okay with the first emergency medical, which I guess isn't a medical hologram. It's like but then the new one, who's sort of like, I don't know, if that's like the surfer one with the, I don't quite know what that personality was.
He was like it was like the drunk one.
Yeah,
I didn't
right,
know what it
exactly.
was.
Yeah, no, that's like. So, what are our sense? So, I feel like Flobo likes Raffi.
I do.
I think the rest of us might not. I don't want to speak for you, Angelica, but I'm with Frank. I already didn't like her.
Yeah.
And no offense to Michelle Hurd, I just don't like her character. And every time you say JL, she goes down a notch.
It hurts.
Yeah, it's very painful.
It's like physical pain, just like, ugh.
No.
I mean, what I can't figure out with the captain is that he hates the emergency hologram. He says that. I hate that thing.
He uses some very foul language to say that, by the way.
Yeah.
Which is just still jarring, by the way, because this is still Star Trek.
That's true.
And I know that they swore on Discovery. It was very jarring when they did that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Jean-Luc is on the bridge. You don't drop F-bombs. Not in front of Jean-Luc.
That's true.
He doesn't appreciate that. He's very refined.
And what do we call it now? Sorry. It's like, it was originally EMH, right? But
Yeah.
now it's a hospitality hologram?
Yeah.
What do we call it? HH?
Emergency EHH, but yeah, because it's an emergency when there's a hospitality emergency.
Okay.
Like I don't know how to fold napkins for a dinner party.
What a
20.
weird idea. No, it just makes me feel like if they assigned you a hospitality hologram, I feel like you should be worried. Like they're worried about you.
Oh yeah.
As a pilot.
Look, I could use a hospitality.
You're like,
we
you
all could.
need somebody. It's like having an emotional support hologram.
Yeah, but for as
Well,
much
it
as he
seems
hates
like
it,
actually that's how he uses it. By the way, he uses
Pretty
them all
much.
as
No,
the
that's what the hospitality that's what
Yeah.
the hologram does though. It essentially just
Yeah.
like I don't know. It just
why
helps
are they
him
all
out.
programmed versions of him though? Because if he
Yeah.
hates it so much, why would he do it?
because he
thinking of
hates
himself?
these.
Look,
he hates himself and he hates the
guess.
different parts of
Wow.
himself.
We're all confused. I would have loved if they just brought back the doctor.
Well, yeah, we had said that last week that
Yeah.
Robert Picardo is, I'm sure, available. I think if you asked him, he'd be like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah.
Just hang out around.
I would've loved that.
Because he had a cameo. Was it in Insurrection or Nemesis that he had a cameo?
Was it
Because-
First Contact?
Oh, you know what? It was First Contact because they needed somebody to slow down the Borg.
Yeah.
And so it's like obviously other ships. Although that's maybe he's the Starfleet emergency medical.
Right.
This is how I spend my free time. I was going back and forth with a friend of mine who I don't know if he's watching right now, but my friend Jason Blair. He was wondering whatever happened to the universal translator because it's like, oh, you speak such good Romulan or this or that, and it's true. My theory on that is that the universal translator is standard issue for Starfleet.
Right.
Picard's not Starfleet anymore. This ship isn't Starfleet. So that's why I think it's not there. I'm going to defer to Frank on this first. What do you think about that theory? Do you think it
sounds like a good theory.
it's just plausible?
Yeah.
Whether that's the case. I hadn't thought about it, but it's true. Usually we don't have these language barriers, do we, Angelica?
No, I mean I think that could explain it, but you pretty much explain that with the EMH as well.
Yeah,
like the
that's true.
doctor is the like this is a
Yeah.
cool
Well,
special.
that's what made me think of it. It's like
Yeah.
so it's like Starfleet gets all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
I
Or
don't
the
know.
just super regulated stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. So that you don't get to program. You don't get to create your own emergency medical program.
I would love to do that.
You want to have like 8 versions of yourself, like giving you advice.
No, I wanna be able to create my own. It's like making your own Wii or whatever, like your own avatar.
Sure.
That's cool.
I definitely agree.
It would probably be a cat though. Let's be honest.
I mean,
A
yes.
talking
All
cat.
Be honest, Christian. If you made your hologram, what version of yourself would it be?
Ooh.
It would probably be one that looks just like Neelix from Voyager because
No.
he's my
Like you as
one of-
Neelix?
one of my least favorite characters.
That's mad at it all the time. That's
No.
why I said that. How my face.
What do you like Neelix?
No.
Because I hated him.
Yeah,
I saw that actor at a party, and I couldn't bring myself to say hi to him because I hated his character so
What about
much.
Tuvix?
Tuvok? Tuvok was fine.
No, Tuvix.
When he melted, when he merged.
Oh,
with
no.
the-
Oh, jeez. Whew. All right. We're going to have to talk about Voyager
You
in a little
blacked
bit.
that out. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about sort of this idea. They go back to this planet, Vashti, that we see at the beginning. And, we see when Jean-Luc beams down at the beginning. Hi, friends. Oh, my God, Jean-Luc. J.O. We love this guy. He's the best. And then he goes this time, and it's basically like sort of in the old movie when you like walk into a bar that you don't belong in and you hear the needle on the record like everybody like stops and looks at Jean-Luc and he's like, who does he think he is?
Which has a lot in this show, by the way. Who do you think you are, Jean-Luc?
What did you think watching sort of the return to Vashti by Jean-Luc Flobo?
To be expected, but a bit on the nose. I feel like there should be some sort of gray areas there. There should be some kind of people that were fans of him all throughout. There should be a lot more of that color in there. It felt very, very one-dimensional, being like, you are the hero. Not anymore. It only bothers me because there's so many points and beats in the other 3 episodes. We had that same exact kind of feeling of him being ostracized that literally hit home for me. But I understand why they did it.
But the warrior nuns liked him.
Of course.
They were glad to see him.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
and if they didn't like him, they would have used absolute candor.
I mean,
Hey.
I'll correct you there. Only Zani?
Oh, the rest of them didn't like him?
Well, she was the only one that was there and was like, hey, what's up? And then Eleanor was like, nah.
To be fair, everyone else was an under 5.
Yeah,
So,
there you go.
they weren't able to let them have dialogue, probably. It's a little showbiz joke. But... I think you're right. Well, I don't know. I feel like it didn't bother. They weren't bothered by him, but everybody on the streets were like, and I don't know, Frank, if, say, you beam down to a planet largely inhabited by Romulans, which will happen probably next week for you. Yeah. That's actually why you weren't here last week. And say there's a sign out front that says Romulans only. Are you going to throw that sign down and then go, I'm going to go ahead and have a seat?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, Picard had his moment.
It was just like, dude, you're in your 90s. Like, how do you think this is going to go for you?
Because he grabs it so angrily
Yeah.
and throws it down and steps on it. And it's like, what do you expect that the reception that you're going to get inside there is?
Bro.
It was a very non-Picard moment for me.
Yeah, but,
Say it lightly.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess because he's older Picard, they want to show us sometimes.
He's bitter Picard.
Oh, he is definitely bitter. Yeah.
Shouting out for the waiter. Just,
It was weird though. It was a moment of what do you expect is going to happen, and it was just a little weird. I think because Picard had always been a figure to me that was very understanding and very like he would approach things with tact, and that was not tactful. So that threw me off a lot, actually.
Yeah, no. I think that, but you're right. We're getting this repeatedly throughout the series, and I think they just really want us to understand people do not like this guy.
Yeah. I would think, especially when he first arrived and saw the welcome that he got, which wasn't any welcome at all. Then he goes to that drinking establishment and sees, just like, yep, nobody's really keen on me, no matter how many times I'm saying hello. Why not take that opportunity to apologize if he feels like he's done something wrong, which he feels he has? Take that moment, and still, it's not until he's actually forced to almost fight for his life that he tries to apologize.
I do think that speech he does make some good points. He's like, yeah, look, he admits that he feels bad about it, but it's sort of his whole presence there on Vashti. It's almost like there's so much for him to apologize for. It's like I don't know. I would have stayed away. But
Christopher Curry says in the chat, I think he wanted to see if there was anyone that would stand up for him so he can take them on the journey. Maybe.
Well, because at that point, his name is Elmore, right?
Yeah, Elnor. Elnor.
Wait, you're saying Eleanor?
Elnor.
Elnor.
ELNOR. Elnor.
All right, so I was just,
Eleanor.
Yeah, Eleanor. So he brings Eleanor Roosevelt with him. Yeah, but I thought that that was kind of an interesting dynamic. You know, it was. What did you think of grown-up version of Eleanor, Angelica?
Well, I thought.
I'm not reading your notes. I don't know what's there, and I'm reading them now. But
No, I was just thinking about the Picard situation, about how that felt very aggressive, the sign throwing thing, and he could have, as an amazing speech giver, just spoken up in front of all of them.
But you gotta get their intention by throwing this sign first.
But that's such a negative
It's
start.
It's not a very Jean-Luc move.
No, it's not. And I'm glad that you said Jean-Luc.
That's a bit of a Will Riker move, if you ask me.
So with grown-up Eleanor, I definitely was getting like daddy issue vibes from him.
Agreed.
And it was just kind of awkward and very stiff.
But we felt bad because instead of ever having a daddy, he had, 5 moms or something? You know, I mean, he just wanted, if he could have just traded in for one dad, and the only dad he wanted was Jean-Luc, who just left him behind. But I did see this in your notes. He does give a shout out to a beloved character from Next Generation who we have not seen, Spot. And
I literally have that like.
yeah, I saw that
Underline.
underline exclamation point. Frank, odds we're gonna see Spot on this show?
I mean, I would think that medical technology,
That cats could live to in their 30s.
yeah, or even longer.
Sure.
Spot has lived through a lot. Okay, Spot's
That's
been
true.
a lizard.
He was alive at the end of Nemesis, was he not? Like he's crawling around on the Enterprise E after that one, because does that also get
Spot's
destroyed?
had babies. Spot's been a lizard. Spot is an everlasting pet.
See, so that's important. Let us know in the chat. Do you think we're gonna get Spot?
Or
Hashtag
just
free
more
Spot.
cat sightings. I think Eleanor is gonna be a future like cat lady.
Yeah, look,
equivalent.
if there's an episode where he sees a cat, you're like, oh, he's gonna die in this one.
Eleanor's just gonna like run.
Yeah, he's
at
like,
it.
oh, I finally seen a cat. Oh my god, I'm dead now.
Or just slowly every time they go into Eleanor's quarters, there's gonna be one more cat.
yeah.
I'm down. I'm open for this.
Speaking of Eleanor, Flobo,
Yep.
how about the way he cut off that dude's head?
Pretty awesome.
Right?
Way better than having an equilibrium in that movie. I didn't think that was quite earned. His whole like, oh, I can't possibly work with you, but now I am. Desi Machina moment, but the slice was amazing. I liked it.
It was an anime moment.
Totally.
Yeah, it's a great line.
It was just so quick, and then all of a sudden, just
Yeah. It's like, I told you so. You know?
yeah, it was epic for sure.
Frank, how did you feel about getting to see Patrick Stewart do some more fencing? It had been a little while, but
That was cross that off my bucket list. So that's there we go. That's all I needed.
one member of the crew we haven't talked enough about before we move to the other storyline as we finish off the show. We haven't talked enough about Agnes, the doctor. I'm getting really strong Cadet Tilly vibes off of her. Frank, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a little. That character goes a long way for me, at least right
But
now.
we've gotten a lot of her.
Yes, and so she's gone a long way for me.
Yeah, we had an episode without her. That was all right.
Yeah,
But
the kind of just I gotta just talk just to fill the emptiness right now.
Yeah.
That's blah 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 blah. So
I mean, we got some good insight. She's like, but all you have is Klingon opera, and he's like, yeah, it's a long story. I'm like, well, I want that story.
yeah, more than you talking about what we call space.
Could we just hear about like why you only have Klingon opera? That sounds very interesting to me.
Yes.
I like her more than Raffi though. I'm trying to be the resident Raffi hater here.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, she seems to really just be there for occasional, very light comic relief. Yeah,
Definitely a character that's supposed to bring levity
Yeah.
when there's something that's really heavy or I don't know. It's interesting because usually like a doctor character tends to be very mathematical and just blunt and straightforward. So they're trying to bring a new dimension to it, I think, with this character. But
Yeah.
it's just it's
but I
weird.
feel like were these scripts to be episodes of Star Trek Discovery, all of her dialogue would be delivered by Cadet Tilly, and she fills the same role. And we've talked a lot about that character over on that show.
But I feel like Tilly's, as much as frustrating as that dialogue can be at times, she is performing her function in the show.
Yeah.
She's working in engineering. She may have other interpersonal bits with Berman, but more often than not, she's doing engineering and she's getting all off, going on her tangents or her Tilliness. But our good old doctor here, Agnes, we haven't really seen her do much other than that first episode talking with Picard for a hot second. So let's get to letting her do what she does and then see those eccentricities flow out from her being that you'll put up with it because she's so good at what she does.
Yeah, she's the foremost expert on synthetic life, but we haven't had to actually showcase that yet. Yeah, so,
Absolutely.
well, let's move it along to the Joni Loves Chachi of Star Trek Picard. I know that's an old reference, but the
Got bail in the house.
yes, Charles is in charge, but Narek is not in charge. We have his just really unpleasant relationship with Soji that I don't enjoy watching, mostly because I know that it's poorly intentioned, but even more uncomfortable is him and his creepy sister. Angelica, which one's harder to watch for you? Him and Soji or him and his super creepy sister? It's a little bit of a loaded question. They're both equally.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a fair answer.
I don't know, that Borg ritual scene was kind of cringy, but then also
Just like, let's take our shoes off. I was just like, what am I watching here?
Yeah, it was a
what's
hardwood
going
floor. That's a Borg ritual. I was totally thinking it'd be something cool in that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
yeah.
And you know, this is, I don't know. I said this last week. So much of what he says is like, this should be like on a checklist of warning signs of, you know, early in a relationship, whether
Red flags.
Yeah, regardless of your gender and the gender of the person you're with, if this is said to you, especially last week, I think I might be falling in love with you. No, just, if you love somebody, you say I love you. But
That's sound Valentine's Day advice, man. Appreciate
it's just
that.
terrible. And you know, I know she's a synthetic life form. I just feel like she should have some common sense programmed into that damn head
Wait,
of hers.
but I want to note too that he actually expressed that he's trying to plant the seed of doubt now. So he's putting out these red flags on purpose.
Well, the seed of doubt that he plants is sort of his. You know, I checked the crew manifest, and you said you're on that ship, but you weren't. And she's like, but I was there. What do you think, I'm lying? And so I don't know. I guess that's the seed of doubt that he's speaking of to his creepy sister. And
But now there's so much doubt.
Well,
with all these red
not that
flags, I
doubt.
guess.
The only doubt she has is whether or not this guy's like 100% asshole or just like 85%. So I don't know. Flobo, do you think that this guy's long game is working out, Narek?
No, I'm not sure what the thing is. If you're trying to do the whole, like, I'm going to be romantically involved to get the information, one thing you do is don't get into fights. Like, what are you doing? And what is your end game? Are you going to somehow force the act? Like, I don't know what the idea is. So, to me, I feel like the creepy sister's worse in this situation because, or no, the whole Soji thing is worse because these are the creepy sister thing vibe. You can say, okay, yeah, incest, fine, in space. But you trying to, you know, make it happen with somebody else, this doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Thank you so much, man.
In space, no one can hear you incest? That's a terrible thing to say.
Just putting it out there.
I'm just... Frank, when you've been deep undercover trying to get information out of synthetic life forms, I feel like you play it much smoother than this.
Yeah, I'm much more efficient in getting the information that I want.
feel like you would have had all the answers already.
Absolutely.
And by the way, you probably would have killed her by now because you would have gotten everything you needed to know.
Absolutely. When the sister
But he's like, oh, let's go ice skating at Rockefeller Center.
Yeah.
when the sister said, I'll give you another week, I was really, please let this be in real time. So that...
So it's next episode.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking too. I was like, okay, so we have an episode. This is gonna go forward.
I put that in my notes, and it's like, it better be the end of episode 5.
Oh,
that she's
please.
like, all right, now it's my turn. And the idea that we want to activate Soji is just like, you guys know what happened when that happened to her sister. What makes you two, I mean, him in particular, does he seem like he's a tough guy? You know, I think that the creepy sister could probably, you know, at least land a couple of shots, but he's going to be dead in like half a second if she gets activated and he's the closest threat to her. So I don't think that she's thought out this plan either.
True.
But I don't know. I just find it all so unpleasant to watch.
And it's taking so long.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we have to keep saying, what was the secret behind that Romulan assimilation? Man, let's just get to it already. Holy cow, it's been like 3 episodes.
Yeah, but it's like instead she's like, you know, watching clips of her on the Dick Cavett show. I'm like, oh, what did she think about that? Yeah. Just decided to just make older and older references as we go through
Yeah, I
the
was
show.
like, how far can we go back?
It's a 70s.
Steve Allen. Yeah.
All right, that's fine. There you go. So, yeah, look, I think that I'm curious as to, because we see her kind of remembering little bits of thing. I think that's one thing that also could happen faster. I would like to see more of what it is that she knows, and I feel like we have to get it next week because this season's almost over. Before we run out of time, which we're about to do, I do want to address the final ending of the very ending of this episode, which is, as we referenced, the introduction of 7 of 9. Although
Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
If you saw the trailers, you knew she was in this season. And look, when there's that ship and they're trying to figure out who it is, I know that some of the previous cast from Next Generation that we were going to see. This actually, I didn't think that was 7 of 9. I thought that maybe it was, I don't know, maybe Will Riker's a hotshot pilot. Probably not. But I didn't think it was her. I just wasn't quite sure who it was going to be. Frank, who did you think that was 7 of 9? Yeah. Okay, so you're smarter than me. Good for you. That must feel nice. Yeah, it must feel really nice.
I almost forgot about 7 of 9. I thought she'd be like introduced earlier because he was all in the trailers and promo materials. Like, I thought she'd be an integral part of the crew way earlier than she was. So I'm glad she made it.
Yeah, well, only 2 episodes of stuff has happened so far. So if you think about it that way,
would Picard be better as a feature? Is that the question I have to ask now? Is there anything TV centered for it?
No, I think it works as a television. Let's have this conversation at the end of the season.
Fair enough.
We'll see, because right now I'm inclined to say that it would work better as a TV show. But yeah, if it continues at this pace, I'd be like, yeah, I could have used like an hour 45 movie just to jump to the story. Angelica, were you excited, surprised? What was your reaction when 7 of 9 beamed aboard?
I was really excited. Honestly, I did like a full clap, like a just full hand clap over my head. I was stoked to see her, but at the same time, I'm getting a little tired of this formula where they do something really cool at the end of each episode that's pushing things forward. But I'm excited because I thought previously she was going to be some sort of cameo, and I didn't realize she was going to actually be part of the crew now. Yeah. So I'm pretty excited to see where it goes from here, and hopefully we can speed things up.
Yeah.
Flobo, this is not a character you're familiar with, right? Because you haven't watched any episodes of Voyager. She also shows up in like season 4. Or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have cable growing up, so I'm really familiar with UPN and their promos, of which 7 of 9 was.
Oh, she was always in the promos.
Yeah, but I haven't seen the episodes. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. But but this, obviously you get a sense for this character and the familiar. So, what do you want to know most about this character that is new to you, 7 of 9?
Sure. So what I understand is 7 of 9 either is in the Borg or was. I'm assuming she's in because she's still called 7 of 9, or she was like decommissioned or like untethered, right?
Well, you learn these things.
Okay.
I was going to answer your questions, but I think, you know what? They'll tell you next week.
I figure so much time has passed, how much more human she would be, then, would be my question.
Yeah,
I should learn breakdancing or juggling. I don't know. That's just.
Oh, if she breakdances next week, I'm gonna have a totally different tone about how great this show is. If she throws down some cardboard and starts spinning around, maybe some Run DMC. I don't know, Big Daddy Kane, whatever.
It was interesting that she, unlike you, kept her implants.
I was thinking about that as well, but I'm trying to remember exactly like what episode, but I'm pretty sure she just made a big deal about it at some point in an episode of Voyager. Yeah. Because they said they could actually remove them, and there was like this whole biological dependency issue before that, and I believe she chose to keep them, so I think it was just trying to stick true to that, whereas he was just like, take it out.
Well, look, it's always going to be problematic because even if she took away the face implants, there's still Jerry Ryan's real life implants that they're never going to get rid of. But anyway, Flobo, I wanted to turn to you for our segment before we wind down here, our recurring segment.
Oh, yeah, it's called Picard Engage.
And we look for the most engaging
line of dialogue said by one of the characters.
And I'm going to put you first because I have to find mine in my notes.
So I'm the only person that loves Raffi because she's actually pretty cool and a good archetype, and I actually enjoyed her more than Dr. Girardi. But earlier in the episode, and an aside to Rios goes, Picard can't go on a guilt trip without a spacecraft. I thought it was pretty cool because this is what we were on. We were on this adventure here. That's it with Picard.
Mine was engaging, but actually in a negative way because we're talking about Narek and his awful approach towards dating and relationships. It was when he said, "The same as you, an insatiable curiosity." I was like, "Oh, just punch him in the face. Just never stop punching him in the face until he stops." That was the most impactful line of dialogue. And Frank, what stood out for you? You know, obviously we don't have to do like Bartlett's familiar quotations, just sort of a general sense of a line of dialogue.
I just thought it was the one where it's with the death of the good is the victim of the perfect or whatever.
Okay,
that was kind of signaling what we talked about earlier.
And what stood out for you, Angelica?
Mine was Elnor mentioning Data's cat Spot.
With 2 exclamation points.
2 exclamation points underlined twice. I was really excited.
I do have to admit that was that's the most excited I was in the whole episode. I was more excited to hear about Spot than see 7 of mine.
And see maybe the possibility of more cats in this season. Very excited.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I got
Elnor's gonna become a cat guy. I'm excited.
Well, cat guys, girls, and all cat beings, we are out of time for this week. But make sure to tune in next Thursday at 9. And we'll be talking about episode 5, and the season will be over before we know it. But until then, Angelica, where can people find you?
The people can find me on most social medias at Aytrae, AYYTRAE, or Instagram at Angelica Trey.
And Flobo.
Where the world can find me at Flobo Boys on Twitter, at Flobito on Instagram, and of course, Flobito.com.
New content every week.
Every week.
Frank Moran.
For no content, come to Happy Go Jackie, Twitter, Instagram.
I love it.
And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ChristianDMZ. And if you enjoy watching Flobo and I Mondays at 3 p.m. Pacific here on AfterBuzz TV, the Curb Your Enthusiasm after show, it's basically the same as this one.
Yeah, it's cool.
Anyway, thanks so much to everyone. We will see you next week. And as always, until then, live long and prosper.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.